my phone should beep any second. I hope. Hello. Got it. Okay, we're good. Oh, wait, it's me, isn't it? Man, I always forget this part. All right. All right, so we're gonna do roll call. Councilman Curl. You're on mute. There you go.
Here.
Perfect. Council President Shrimp.
Here.
Councilman Benedetti.
Here.
Councilman Wolf.
Here.
Councilman Bruger.
Here.
And Councilman McNamara.
Present.
Perfect. All right, we are going to go straight into legislation. Mark.
Okay. All right. Of course, just to do a quick report, we did have a legislation meeting, before this to go over proposed or the creation of ordinances regarding sidewalks. Some progress was made. It is still not anywhere close to being ready to bring to the meeting or write up as a formal thing. That being said, I'll go straight into the reading of the resolutions, starting with 2020-13, resolution declaring the necessity and authorizing the transfer of funds by the Village of Minerva Park from the Water Maintenance Fund and the Sewer Maintenance Fund to the Storm Sewer Maintenance Fund pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, blah, blah, blah. What we're doing here is the village desires to transfer $350,000 of the funds currently held in the water fund and $250,000 currently held in the sewer maintenance fund to the storm sewer maintenance fund. As I understand that, it's because, of course, we have to put those in the right funds. We don't have sanitary sewers to fix right now or water lines, but we do have storm sewers to fix. A little more detail on that than normal because we are going to try to read this. It would be a second reading with an intent to waive the third, so the funds can get transferred in a timely manner and we can start repairing storm sewers, before, winter hits.
Can I interrupt for 10 seconds?
Are we
Sure.
supposed to be, is it our intent to waive the 3 readings tonight? Isn't that the purpose?
Correct.
This is the
Yes, he's
second?
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
But
okay.
it also in the top, and I didn't catch this, so in the very top, it doesn't actually say, it says a resolution declaring the necessity for the author, obviously you guys can all read it. And if you read section 5, it's to declare it an emergency to get it obviously done, but it doesn't actually say that in the headline, but that is the intent, is to waive the third reading, pass it tonight and pass it as an emergency so we can sign it tomorrow and get this information through the court system. And I don't know if you guys remember that, but it's actually in section 5, but it doesn't have it in the title.
Yeah.
I don't know if it needed to be in. So there you go. I just wanted to remind you if we need to adjust it.
Okay.
Just section 2 though is it's kind of misleading because section 2 is saying what's going to really happen is the fiscal officer is authorized to submit a petition as provided. So fiscal officer is not transferring any funds until the petition is approved.
Correct.
So this is really, isn't this really a resolution to submit a petition?
Correct.
A petition to authorize the transfer of funds.
It says the fiscal office is hereby authorized and directed to submit a petition as provided in section to the Ohio Revised, yes.
Right. So the title of this says transfer, authorizing the transfer of funds, which I realize
Oh, I see what you're saying.
we have to do that. That's true. But this resolution is not.
You're saying we
supposed
need
be
to change
covering
the title?
both the petition and the ultimate transfer? Would that be accurate?
Well, I think once the petition's granted, then it transfers.
Yeah, I
I
believe
don't-
this is,
See, so
Correct.
once the petition is, hopefully the petition is approved.
Correct.
but I think the point behind this is we're authorizing this transfer. Part of the process of being able to transfer that is the petition. So we're authorizing our fiscal officer to go to the store and get things, part of that step is going to the car and driving there. That might not be an analogy that works at all for this, but it's how I'm hearing it.
Good shot.
So by saying, yes, we approve the transfer of this, we do that knowing full well that we have to, as number 2 says, petition the tax commissioner of Ohio to get approval to do it.
Right, and I get that. I also understand that to be true. And it may be all, you know, I assume that Mr. Hollins was involved in this writing of this, so this must be the way to do it. But just in terms of talking about it with anybody else, it would be good to say that the first step one is submitting the petition. And so the second step is once it's approved, then we agree we're going to transfer the funds. So people don't think that the funds are being transferred you know, like tomorrow.
Okay, that makes
Yeah,
perfect sense.
it sounds like an appropriate use of emergency because this stuff's flooding. It's been flooding. We need to get it fixed. So,
Okay, so if I remember my order right, and I'm sure I don't, I am going to move that we waive the third reading of this and read it tonight for passage. Second reading.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Oh, we need a roll call vote on that.
Roll call vote. Ugh.
It's all right. Hey, I already got kicked off and logged back in, so I'm ready.
Yeah, I know.
So
I
Diane,
just
you
like
may,
saying aye.
okay, Diane, just so you know, if anybody logs in, I think you're leading this now. Okay, so let's go with Councilman Curl,
Aye.
Council President Shrimp,
Right?
Councilman Benintendi,
Aye.
Councilman Wolf,
Aye.
Councilman McNamara,
aye.
Councilman Brugger.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, so we have decided to waive the third reading. Next comes a vote to approve it. I move that we approve it, barring anyone who wants to make any more discussion on it.
Second,
Approved as an emergency.
Oh, yeah, but you have to,
Oh, I thought we did it, approved it, and then declared it an emergency. It's just all
No,
one.
first-
in
first
one,
you do the 3 readings, then you,
right,
Gotcha.
no, you move to pass as an emergency.
I moved to pass as an emergency. My apologies there.
Second.
All right. If
All right, here we go. Okay, so Councilman Curl,
Aye.
Councilman Benintendi,
aye.
Councilman Wolf,
Aye.
Councilman McNamara,
aye.
Council President Shrimp,
Okay.
and Councilman Brugger.
aye.
Got it. All
Let's
right.
fix these things.
Okay, so that passes. Next, we have Resolution 2020-14. This is just a second reading. And now I have to scooch down because of all the stuff between it's and that. I knew I should have printed things off. It's for scoping our storm drains. Let me see if I can find it so I can get up. There we go. Excuse me. So authorizing and approving the execution of a contract with Flowline LLC for inspection, cleaning, and video recording of certain storm sewers and declaring as an emergency. So we'll go away from that whole first reading thing I said earlier. This is up to $23,000 without further approval of council. I believe the original estimate is for $1,750 or somewhere in that neighborhood. Just to point out, the cleaning part of this is not necessarily a drainage issue resolution, but rather just that the pipes are so clogged and backed up that they need to be cleaned before we can even go in there and look to see what needs to be done. Is that correct as well?
Yes.
Okay.
If we're lucky that this will fix the problem, you know, or be a big, you know, if they're able to bust through this blockage, you know, That would be the
With
most
this,
positive.
with these pipes, we ain't getting that lucky, Tony. You know that.
Well, I'm going to remain optimistic that it might fix some problems. Just put it that way.
If they stake out the drains, it's not going to make the backup worse.
That's true. That is true.
I mean, it might not, I doubt it's going to fix everything. I don't think we just have too many tree leaves down there, but. So we are looking to pass this as an emergency. So first, well, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion on it before I move to?
This,
Yeah.
Wait a minute, we're just,
this is the third reading is, if you look at the bottom, even though it wasn't in the title, the third reading is being requested to be waived and passed tonight as an emergency. So we have a waive and a pat and an emergency.
Same exact, yeah, same exact
Yeah.
as the last one.
Okay.
Yep.
oh. Well, the agenda didn't say that either.
No, it
Yeah,
didn't.
well,
What?
we'll adjust it.
I never played ping pong with 3 players before.
Okay, so anyone
I
else?
knew
with
I'd
any-
get Tony with that one.
Anyone else with any further comments on this? In that case, I move that we waive the third reading.
Second,
Tony seconds.
Councilman McNamara,
Aye.
Councilman Bruger,
Aye.
Councilman Curl,
Aye.
Councilman Benedetti,
aye.
Council President Trump,
I,
Councilman Wolf.
Aye.
All right.
All right, we will waive the third reading. Having waived the third reading, I propose that we pass this as an emergency.
Second,
Second from Councilperson Benedetti. Any discussion? All right, let's take a vote.
All right. Councilman Bruger,
Aye.
Councilman McNamara,
Aye.
Councilman Benedetti,
aye.
Councilman Curl,
Aye.
Councilman Wolf,
Aye.
Council President Trump.
I,
All right.
All right, our last resolution this evening is 2020-15, and it has no extra things attached to it.
That's
So
an
it
easy
is
one.
just a resolution to adopt the tax budget for the village of Minerva Park, Ohio for the year beginning January 1st, 2021, and to submit the same to the Franklin County Budget Commission. This is not, the village budget or anything. This is the tax budget. And I will let somebody else explain it if they would like.
Isn't this the one we turn into Franklin County as our estimate for the year?
yes,
Correct.
There you go. Thank you for explaining it.
When are these figured out and tabulated?
These are estimates that we're sending to the county, and we're statutorily required to get it to them by a certain date, right?
Okay, and
But
I just
our,
don't believe that I was present on the council when this was done.
I
no,
think-
we don't do it. This is generated by our fiscal officer, right? We
Okay,
will
okay, I
do-
was just trying to decide whether to be present or yay.
We
I think
we
it's-
will come toward the end of the year, we will have a fiscal budget that we typically would be more involved in the formulation of. And that gets, later in the year.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, I believe this one just says Franklin County, we think we're going to make about this much money this year.
Well, and then there's
Okay.
another budget in July, I think, that we pass, isn't there?
This is it.
this is
That's
it.
that's this one. We're just for the first time in as many years as I can remember,
We're getting it done.
actually starting readings early enough that we can get all 3 readings done.
Oh, that's what threw me off.
There you go.
Right. We're actually going to have that special meeting on June 15th because we have the one on the 8th, the 15th, and then the very next week. Because she has to have that public meeting, and we're going to do that on June 15th. And then we're going to pass it. The hope is, I guess I shouldn't say we're going to pass it. The hope is that it passes on the 15th, and that's after the public meeting.
All right. And that ends legislation, I believe. Unless there's something hidden up here in agendas that I didn't see.
No, we did not add anything else because there's going to be a
Cool.
couple things again that you guys will have. the codified ordinances and a couple different things that we're working on getting all of that legislation up together. So yeah, you're going to have a couple other ones here shortly. You're going to have the rest of the tax levy, getting that put on the ballot here shortly. You're going to have quite a few coming up, but we're hoping to get all of those to where we do not have to waive anything or pass anything as an emergency. We plan on getting those done as fast as possible and getting all 3 readings. So yeah. Oh yeah, I guess it's back to me. I'm just sitting here. All right, so we have new business. Anybody with new business?
I maybe, well, I always say it's old business, new business. I think after listening to the communications committee meeting, I think we need to revisit the committee assignments. Specifically the communications committee and what the duties and responsibilities of that committee is. I'd like to maybe take a shot at explaining I think where the confusion is at is that, the role of the communications committee in my mind is to discuss how we go about communicating with our residents. And it seems to be people stuck on the what are we going to communicate with the residents. And, that is something that we should all be involved in, what we communicate to our residents, but specifically the role of the communications committee in my mind is to talk about the how we communicate. Example being the website, text messages, text blasts, and the newsletter, and any other things that the committee would like to recommend to council to adopt. I had a chance to read Joe's email right before we got here, and I think things have gotten blown out of proportion here a little bit, because no one is trying to infringe upon First Amendment rights for freedom of speech. But I think we also need to.
I didn't say anyone was in there. What I said is it touches upon the issue.
Well, I can see how you feel that way, but I think what we need to concentrate on, just for, I wouldn't say that the communications committee can't weigh in and provide some content for the different forms of communication that we're going to use. But right now we need to concentrate primarily on how we're going to communicate. And that's where the communications committee, I think, needs to focus on, is the how.
If I may say this, the only thing so far with the new website since Mayor Hughes took office and up to this point, emergencies aside, the only thing the communications committee has done is been working on this new website. Contrary to some opinions, it hadn't done anything else.
If I may interrupt with a quick question, who all is on? I understand Joe Curl is the chair of communications, I believe. Who else is on that committee?
Diane and myself.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious.
Yeah. And Tony, I agree with your assessment of what the scope of the communications committee should be and historically has been.
Well, and I think right now is that, most of the work's being done by the mayor and Becky, but I think once the basic website is established, then the communication committee can start to have some more input into the different parts, what we want to see, the different parts of the website. That's my vision for the committee, is to, my big thing is getting the planning and zoning, all this permitting stuff, that needs to be on the website, and all those other things that we'd like to incorporate into the website.
And those things have been discussed in communications committee meetings.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, that's within the scope of the things that we've discussed.
Well, and I also think we need to, it's not just the communications committee assignments. It's, I would go with legislation is something that I think the committee should spend some time on what the legislation with regards to zoning issues. I mean, the problem we have is that it appears to me that we want to start all the zoning stuff off in planning and zoning like we did with sidewalks. And it started in planning and zoning and ended up being something completely different by the time it got to council. So I think the legislative committee should start taking up at least one code and take a look at it. Like I don't know if it was swimming pools that I brought up with the council or the planning and zoning commission, but that's a code that we need to take a look at because it's just.
So, Tony,
Go
I
ahead.
believe when it comes to planning and zoning legislation, and we'd probably need to check with Gene to be certain, but I believe that statutorily we are obligated to have those brought to council or put to council from our planning and zoning commission. So I do not believe that council has the authority to just pick up and wholesale adopt without planning and zoning bringing a recommendation first.
Well, I've heard it described that way too, Brian, and I don't.
So then we should either ask for an opinion from our legal counsel. That's probably the best next course of action. If you wanted to take up zoning ordinances in council prior to planning and zoning, putting forth a recommendation, before I would feel comfortable doing that, I would like our village attorney to say that that is legal.
Well, that'd be great. We'll have him take a look at it. And this is another issue, is this constantly referring to the attorney to make any kind of judgment about what our code says.
Nobody asked him to, in this instance, to tell us what our codes say. We're asking him to tell us what Ohio Revised Code says, not ours, Ohio Revised Code.
Well, but most oftentimes our code was written with the Ohio Revised Code as its, template. All right. Well, I guess we'll put that on the list. I mean, I asked Gene for his interpretation of decks, patios, and sidewalks, and we'll wait for him to come back with that. Now we'll add this onto his list. I promise you I'll be looking at the codes because it's really not as difficult as it's being made out to be, I think, about the requirements of planning and zoning when it comes to, my opinion of this is that if it does say that planning and zoning needs to approve it, that doesn't mean that we couldn't start it off and then go and get their approval once it's been formulated. I'd really like to just see what I'm getting at is, a little bit more effort from the council, my colleagues, in trying to address the topics that we have to address.
So Tony, that may be your interpretation, but as that has not historically been the interpretation that the rest of us have been operating under, again, I would feel most comfortable having that legal opinion before we would move forward with those.
I guess the next thing I have to do is start, I've said this before, make my list of all of Gene's, all of his, legal interpretations that have been inaccurate over the years. I mean, Brian, I had an issue with Gene over a newspaper of general circulation. I've got a whole long list of things.
That is yet another
bringing this up.
That's yet another part discussion. And if you want to discuss, researching other legal firms, I would certainly support you in that.
But I would not be comfortable doing it in open council as it relates to a village employee.
He's not a village employee.
It's a contract.
Oh,
He's a contractor. He's a contractor and he has, there's a contract with the firm that he's from, and we can change with 30 days notice anytime that we want to. So it's a business, strictly business arrangement.
I still think discussing performance of even just contracted employees in open council is not necessarily appropriate.
And
Yeah,
I
I'm not
don't
comfortable with
even-
this either.
I totally, I've always agreed with that. Not everybody agrees with that, but I 100% agree with that. And in fact, why would you talk about performance? You simply say, we want somebody else. It doesn't, there is no need to qualify why.
What?
He's not an employee.
Well, I
Oh,
guess,
he's got a contract. He's not an employee. We don't have to write him up and give him a
that's
written
why
warning.
there's
He's
no
just
going.
a contractor. If you
Well,
want
but
somebody else, you get
what's the
somebody else.
process of doing, we can't go into executive session because he's not an employee, and we have to make a decision about it in public, but we can't we just
And
all of a sudden secretly decide that we don't want his services anymore.
Tony, I don't think there's anything secret to say that there's an appetite to investigate other legal counsel, right? I don't think that that is anything close to inappropriate to say in a public meeting, right? But so then we have to determine the next steps. The next steps would be, engaging other legal counsel to interview, determine whether their rates, are commensurate with our budgeting, and whether or not we
What I'm
believe that
hearing
their
is that we're
services-
already past that we need someone else. Now we're on to who we're going to get. Is that where we're at?
But you can always interview. You can always interview, right? Whether or not we even make a change is a whole nother story, but you can always interview.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you get a Harvard lawyer, and if you lower his rate, you're going to get a lower job. Doesn't matter what school he went to. That's all I'm going to say. I worked with lawyers my entire life.
Well, this conversation started off with talking about committee assignments, and maybe we can get back to, I think there may be some confusion even within the community committee about what the definitions are. Maybe the thing, well, let's go back to communications. I mean,
So actually,
is
if I
it
can,
spelled out in the definition of the communications committee? I haven't looked at it
so since this is a business meeting and not a work session, it would be my preference to put this as an agenda item for our next Saturday work session.
there
To
you go.
discuss
That's-
committee, to discuss committee scopes, right?
Roles.
The scopes and responsibilities, and revisit committee assignments, right? Because we can sit here and talk about it all night long, but we all know darn well that we're going to do it all over again at the next work session anyhow. So we might as well punt it to then and
Fair.
only do it once.
That seems
I
fair
think
to me.
I would agree that it would be a good Saturday session discussion.
So then Diane, if you would add that to the agenda for the next Saturday session, that would be super.
Yeah.
All right. Any more new business? All right, old business. Anybody
I'm
else
gonna
have any
talk to
before I start?
Franklin. I'm gonna talk to Franklin Soil and Water Conservation. I was pointed in that direction by some of my other leads. There we go.
What's
Okay.
that with regards to what?
Franklin County Soil and Water Conservation District. They were another agency I was pointed towards for different seed mixes and planting protocols for lakeshore restoration.
Well, I would report that I started lowering the water in the lake a few days ago, and I would say after this rain we get here, it'll be right back up to where it was when I started. So
Well, an attempt was made and it was
Well,
appreciated.
I'm leaving it open until it lowers. And that's going to be the thing. It's very weather dependent.
Mhm.
And we're supposed to be getting rain all week, but,
Yeah, I know.
and that's coming out on the north end of the South Lake, right? It goes down the ravine, down
Yeah.
those little rocks and straight into the stream. And I'm not saying there is or not, is that causing any flooding issue down in that basin and on the walking trail?
Well, it's turned it into, well, it's already kind of a wetland back there. There's cattails and stuff, but it
Mhm.
is, turned it into a marsh area there.
Is it affecting the walking path significantly? I mean, and these are just questions that like, oh, hey, when we have to drain the lake, what's it gonna look like? that I
Well,
think, you know,
yeah, and there is, I mean, I have, well, I've spent a lot of time walking back around there.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of work that we're going to be stuck with back, and I would say stuck with, but yeah. I think we need to take a look at the ravine below the spillway. I think I found an old amusement car ride that's coming out of the ground. It's buried back there, but there's a lot of erosion on the side that, you know, right above it is a pathway. And if you go back there and look at it, I think we're going to need to try to do some kind of erosion control. And the
Mhm.
whole
I think this
area
is,
Oh, I
where
would
this,
talk to people about
where
that
the
as well.
water is draining. What was that?
what?
I'd be happy to
I-
add erosion control as one of our specific requests.
Well, you know, when Lisa had the facts person come and do a walkabout, he said the same thing that I noticed as well, and you noticed, Tony, just now. And that when you go on that pathway, the MI has set up drainage to erode that slope specifically. It is
Mhm.
something they need to fix. And it's undercutting the asphalt at the bottom of that walkway before you go over the bridge. It
I-
needs to be, the whole drainage plan over there needs to be fixed,
It needs work,
mitigated.
yeah. And that's
And
where
and
it's
I've-
become very evident when we're draining, because, you know, draining the lake is not an unusual event. It's something that you should do all the time. And the way it's graded back there, it's just not graded properly. And like
Well,
your point, there is water going over the pathway.
Right. And that's not just from that. There's pipes from people's houses that come out over there. Plus,
Right.
it's not a swale, but it's looking like a swale coming down from the other upper level houses, and it's just,
yeah, coming from the south side next to it is
and
going
it is
into it pretty good.
it's wrong. It's undercutting the asphalt. It's gonna be a hot mess, and this was not done correctly.
And I thought we had
This is-
something mailed to us that had a list of things that MI was supposed to address before they move out. And I want to say some of that was addressed on that, if I'm not mistaken. Because I remember seeing things about either putting a culvert underneath or something and doing some remediation. So if anyone else remembers that, and it's not just my fevered imagination, I believe some of that, there is an email that we received where some of that is already addressed as what has been told to MI. Can anyone support me on that?
I
know
believe I saw
Diane
something
had a
similar to that.
Haha, that's a half
I
support. I'll take it.
When we had, no, I don't know about that. I know we had the meeting with MI and we had a list we went through, and I have those notes,
Right.
but specifically, is that area specifically named right there? I'm not sure it is. But it's not, we're supposed to have the walkthrough before we sign off on this, but I would give
Yep.
MI heads up that this needs to be worked on.
The fix is a lot of dirt. There's a lot of dirt needs to go back down there to fix this.
Yeah, and what we need, and we'll also, again, I say this not having seen the specific area you're referring to, but in most cases, we want fast growing, fast covering native plants with deep roots that can help stabilize it.
Kudzu it is.
Okay, so I said native first off.
Well, maybe we can add this to
Yeah,
the
the first.
next work, maybe 2 things in our next work session. You know, well, I don't know what else we can do in the work session other than ask them to, I mean, this is something we're running out of time when it comes to dealing with MI. I mean, they built, I mean, the last permit came, the clock is ticking. That, and I guess the maintenance.
As you guys are talking about,
Maintenance of the ponds or the retention ponds is another issue that, you know, unfortunately, we were misled over the years about whether there was going to be any fountains in there. And, you know, we went for all that time thinking that there were going to be fountains, and now they're not. And we need to come up with a plan for the maintenance of those retention ponds because they're getting pretty gnarly.
I have a picture that was sent to me that I will try to forward to you guys. There's actually red algae, green algae, all kinds of stuff going through some of those ponds over there now.
I've seen it with my very own peepers.
Have you already seen? Okay. So has anybody else not, have you guys not seen it? Anybody seen it, not seen it?
I haven't walked through since the weather changed. So,
Diane, I just sent it to you. I'm trying to send it to you guys real quick. I'm trying to see who else on here. But anyways, I sent it to Eric. Eric did send the information to MI to try to have them look at it. I'm trying to send out an email. That might be easier.
Eric, do you remember?
So
if
that was just,
sent with the list when I was trying to talk about?
So I'm sorry, the list of,
It was just stuff that MI had to take care of before they pulled out.
so like a punch out list.
Yeah. Am I just confused that I thought I saw that and I didn't?
No. So as we get closer to the end here, and we're still multiple months away, we have a number of things to discuss with them.
We're running out of time.
So we have a number of things to discuss with them. And obviously, as the council has concerns, we have made them aware of those concerns, whether it's the, bridges over the creek that need to be repaired, amongst other things, the pathways. All of these things will impact the acceptance time period when it comes before you, because it's going to be an ordinance to accept the conveyance of all that ground. So obviously, if there are things that hold it up, they don't want to see that either. So again, if you have items, we need to email them to the mayor, and we will, or myself, and we'll be happy to compile a list together, and we will sit down with MI in the coming months in order to get things handled. So
Awesome, thank you.
Well, could we maybe get a copy of that punch list as it exists today?
I will speak to the mayor and see what we have.
Okay. All right. You guys want me to bring up anything else? What are we into, old business, new business?
does anybody else have old business?
I believe we're okay.
All right, so here we go. Obviously you guys all saw my post and all of that about the pool opening. My plan is to work with John over the next 2 weeks, and anybody else that has concerns or anybody that wants to be involved or get involved to make sure that, we're doing everything on the up and up. I invite you to join in. I know we have a couple people that do attend the pool, some maybe don't, and that's fine. The regulations are pretty strict. There's no doubt about that. The 6 foot social distancing is something that they really obviously are not letting loose even in the water. So we have plans to do 6 foot lane lines. Exactly how those are going to look and exactly how those are going to operate is still, we're still working on it. I did, in my basic post, if you haven't seen it, it pretty much says the pool is not going to look like it usually does. I mean, it's not going to be a jump in and swim laps and do all of the things that you normally want to do. I think on days that it's not that busy, that would be an option. But on days that it's potentially busy, it's going to look a little bit different. There's going to be one entrance in, one entrance out. Restrooms are going to look a little different. There's going to be limits allowed in there. We may be cutting off memberships, but I guess one of the big things I wanted to bring up to you guys, we brought back the after 5 pass. I think that's a bad idea right now. We passed it in our legislation. So honestly, I don't know exactly where we go from here, but I think, obviously there's going to be a financial concern opening the pool this year. So I think letting people in after 5 and having a big, huge crowd after 5 is not what we're aiming for. Thoughts?
I don't think it's going to be that different. My thought is that, the pool was never, at capacity before. I don't know. Well, I mean, there were some days when we had to, like John had said, maybe 3 days he's had to call it because of the number of people, but I don't see it getting crazy. I mean, there's all those people that aren't going to go out, period.
I agree. I definitely agree with that, but I
it's a wait and
think,
see what happens before we start changing anything like that.
so that's up to you guys. I'm bringing it up because that is a concern. Oh man, I was going to say something. Okay. So the phone has been ringing off the hook for wanting to know if the pool's going to open. So that was my point to that. I will be able to email you guys tomorrow the amount of memberships that we have. I have no problem doing that and trying to keep you guys in the loop a little bit on that. We're going to be running a bunch of payments tomorrow for people that have been emailing. But like I said, the phone's been ringing off the hook. Amherst is not going to be open this year. Westerville JC, we got some of their information from their phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 that we plan to get some of our information and, use some of our ideas with some of their ideas. I have not heard from Westerville Parks and Rec yet. I can only assume that they're going to be open. But does anybody have anything to say about the pool? And I think the After 5 pass was one of the ones that I just wasn't so sure about. And again, it boils down to people waiting just until 5 o'clock to come. It concerns me that it could get too crowded after 5.
People getting there early so there's enough space. So, I mean, you may not even have room after 5.
Correct. That's the other thing.
What would happen if we forewent the bonds on this and refunded the grant and attempted to do the pool ourselves? We wouldn't be restricted with this, all these other regulations that are gonna.
I don't think we want to go down that road, Joe.
No, we are.
Anybody
We
else?
are. It's my understanding, even if this is here, let me go backwards. Even if this was a private
Question,
pool,
Tony.
what's that?
And I just said, I don't think we need to go down that road.
Well, the only thing I have to say about this is there's still a pandemic, we still need to keep people safe. So whether it was private or not, I would want to make sure that we do everything this is where I tread lightly. And I know people are probably watching this. This is a swimming pool. You are going to walk past people. You are going to swim past people. We are going to do the best that we can to make sure that people have space. But as everyone's aware, when you go to Kroger, you do walk past people. Okay, I walk past people and I'm not 6 foot away from every single person I walk past. I think we have to be realistic. I think that people have a responsibility when they come to the pool. If they are coming to the pool, that they have to understand and assume some of the risks as well. I mean, again, it's no different to me than going to Meijer or Kroger. You're going to walk past people. But as far as, even if we were a private pool, I would want to implement as many of the safety features as we possibly could. Because again, I think we owe that to our residents to keep it as safe as possible. We have a lot of residents that, again, they may not be concerned about this, but we have just as many that are. So I think that it's our responsibility to do everything that we can to keep the pool safe as possible. There is no perfect way except for stay home and don't open it. That's your only way of being perfectly safe at the pool.
Well, the pool last year on the hottest days, if you jumped in the water, you hit 4 people on the way in. And to try and
that's not gonna.
That's
not going to happen this year.
Well, a person would have to cut off the number of
memberships and non-members.
Right. That's Joe.
Residents,
determined to keep adequate space. You had a capacity of so many people. The only way you could do it. Then
we've already done that.
It changes the hours, because if you have certain number of people allowed in, and then people arrive at 5 o'clock and it's already full, it could be an issue.
It just means you can't get in.
Right. The thing that we have to remember, and again, I'm really trying to tread lightly here. So I'm going to apologize if I make people mad when I say certain things, but this is an issue everywhere you go. When you go to Trader Joe's, you may have to stand in line. When you go to a lot of stores, you have to stand in line. This is not going to be any different. I explained to people on the posting, and I'm going to be putting it on the website, that we want patience. In the event that we're doing this, knowing that our residents understand that we can't have 500 people at the pool. That being said, we also can't let, residents in for half price, or else we won't be able to open either. So at the end of the day, we know that we are going to need people's patience. We know that there's going to be days people may not be able to get in. We know that on the hottest days of the year, there's going to be a lot of, I'm going to call it maybe upset people. But all I can say is I hope those people all understand that it's not by choice. It is. I mean, it's
Well,
part of it.
It's
So
by necessary
what's
choice.
the bottom line? What would it cost us if we refunded the grant and paid for it ourselves, or found the funding another way? What, is there a dollar amount?
I
No,
still don't
it's
understand. We wouldn't
No,
refund
he's talking about-
anything
he's talking about
to make it a
it
private
just
pool.
allowing, yeah. And what I'm saying, it's already too late for that. It's not just this grant.
Yeah.
Years ago,
Correct.
this was made a public pool, and grants were used to make it a public pool. We can't go back on that now.
No, I think we can go back.
Well, I'm
on
not
it, just
suggesting
get
that we
any more
do, but
public money.
the public rules have all been changed by dictates from the governor's office. So I haven't read them all, but anyway, with this questions,
Well, again, I think the whole part to it is I'm totally fine with the rules. I mean, as a person that people are going to be looking to make sure that the pool is safe. Sorry, I'm moving around. I don't mind the rules. I think the rules are there. I mean, even for somebody that, I'm definitely not as cautious as some of the other people. That's fine, but I still believe the rules need to be there as best as possible. So
Well, I
I'm
think
fine with the rules. I mean, I really am.
I think
And-
that we need to talk about is about how we go about cutting off people that are showing up at the front door. Is that, you got the people that pay a membership, that are going to be told you can't come in sometimes.
And I think that's part of the being patient. I think people are going to have to know that.
Now, the question real quick, Tiffany, is though, is there any mechanism, and I'm not saying I want there to be or don't want there to be, is there any mechanism or legal ability to say, oh, two people show up, one's a member, one just has $9 in their hand, the member gets preferential, or is it just first come, first served, and it doesn't matter if they're a member or they just showed up with their $9?
What a
think that
great
the
question. That's
public
going to be
pool-
something.
well,
It has
the
to do
real
with
practical
whether
thing to
memberships
do would
are
be to
open
have
to
a
the public.
contact thermometer at the door, like they're doing everywhere else in every other public facility right now. And that is at least do some cursory check to see if people are running a temperature and ask them a few questions before they enter. That would be the prudent thing to do.
I don't think you can get a hold of one
I
of
think
them.
you were in the middle of answering my question. I'll let you finish there.
Okay, so that is a great question, because that is one of the things that we're toying around with. The thing that I will remind people is we offer memberships to the general public. So it is to our residents and outside residents. So you are correct. One of the things I've been thinking about is just that. Is there a way to have two lines? One for members and one for non-members? If let's just assume that first morning there's a line. My view is the first 10 members get to go in, and then you have one non-member. 10 members go in, one non-member type thing. That's a number that I made up out of my head. Maybe it's 3 and then 1, 3 and then 1. I don't know. But that's a thought. I mean, memberships do have priority. I do believe that. I think that, again, whether I decide to get a membership or not, I agree. I think the members should have a little more priority than others. One of the other things that I had tossed around with Saturdays being busy, I'm assuming Saturdays are usually busier, having John open at 11 or 11:30 for members only, that would get them in first. If they came at 12:30, then that's on them. So, I mean, again, here's what I would say. I have tossed around a lot of different things in my mind and out loud. We have 2 weeks to come up with making this as safe as possible and working together to make sure that, we've hit all of the different things. I'm open for any suggestion any one of you guys have. I'm not saying that it's going to work, or I'm not saying that, John's okay with it, but I think this is exactly what we need. We need to toss around these ideas. We need to look at other pools and see what they're doing. I guess, here's what I'm going to say. The last thing I want to do is get shut down. I know there's people in this neighborhood that do not want this pool to open. And I promise you, they will be watching. And that's fine. I mean, that is fine. I mean,
don't see
I
how
have
we
no
could get
issue with that.
shut down if we put forth a good,
So-
if we
say-
make our best efforts to
Correct.
follow all the rules.
And that's what I intend to do.
Safety is the most paramount thing. Not checking people when they come in with all we're wrestling with on the pool. And it's not a big deal. I was down at the Federal COVID Center today. And to go in, they ask you a certain number of questions and they check your temperature, which is a non-contact thermometer. It takes 2 seconds.
We'll try to get a
And so-
non-contact thermometer right now, Joe.
Joe,
We've been
I work
2
for one of the
months.
largest hospitals in
Tony,
Joe, I
Tony,
work for
leave
the
it
largest
to
hospitals
you to,
Columbus,
leave
and
it
we've
to
done
you
a
in an
handful of 'em.
epidemic to worry about not getting a thermometer.
Well, but it's a real
Don't worry about the membership
concern.
fee.
No,
Give it to you.
Joe, we're not screaming about okay. I'm not in, again,
Oh,
I'm not
I
in
thought-
disagreement.
You
Okay.
just finished saying, Tiffany, that you wanted to hear suggestions, and the
Correct.
best suggestion you could make is to do this little cursory check, which is being mandated by a lot of officials, anyways. But this would give confidence to the people going in the pool that nobody with COVID is walking right in the door at the after five
it's a
test and
misplaced
hopping in.
confidence.
So I guess my one
This is-
question is, do we,
I didn't bring it up, Tony. Tiffany just brought it up. But if
Okay,
you
we
want to
don't
make a
need to
Joe
raise our
bashing
voices.
session out of it
Okay.
again, go ahead.
okay,
I'm trying
I'm
to
going to
make
make
a
a
joke,
comment,
Joe.
and I
Somebody
know I
gotta
never
come up
do
with
this,
some
and I'm going to
intelligent
say,
stuff here. I'm not hearing much.
Okay, we need to try to be more respectful and take turns. I know it's,
Okay.
okay,
I
yeah,
started studying viral outbreaks in 1968 in the military, where we deal with them, and so I might try and squeeze a word in here or there, but without getting laughed out of town.
no, I'm
Oh, you
about to
have
mute
very
everybody
valid
because I got
concern.
something to say. Okay, first off, I'm actually saying this on a live, and I think a couple of you will agree with me. We are representing the village of Minerva Park. We are on a live video stream, and there is absolutely no need to raise your voice at other council people right now, okay? I think it's absolutely ridiculous that this is going on right now. So that's all I have to say about that. As far as taking temperatures, you are correct. I have asked for ideas. Tony is also correct that the thermometer that we ordered through the EMS has taken over 2 months to get to us. I'm not saying we can't get a thermometer, but there are also specific thermometers that we would need in order to do this. I do not know what the logistics of taking a child's temperature without their parent there, meaning like a 13-year-old. I don't know if that's something that we can do without their parent being there. So
But Tiffany, just a quick word. The non-contact thermometers everyone's using don't touch anybody. They read in about 3 microseconds. They
I
just check
understand
if
that, and I'm
somebody
also-
has an elevated temperature. Now, if they do, they shouldn't be allowed in the pool.
I understand, but I
That's all I'm
don't know
saying.
if we have the, again, these are all great options. Nobody is just, nobody's yelling at you. I'm asking, these might be legal questions that we would need to ask. I'm not opposed to having John take people's temperatures if we can get a thermometer, if this is something that we can do. The employees will be doing that.
Well-
As far as, I
It's-
don't know if there's a rule. I don't know exactly what the rule is off the top of my head, so I'm not
The
gonna,
guidelines
you
say
know-
that the people that work there are supposed to check themselves before they come.
that's what I thought.
That's what that's what the guidelines put out by the government, whichever organization it is.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so-
No, I was at the head government place today. They have the entire place barricaded. To get in, they check your temperature. They ask you if you've been to a foreign country in the last 30 days. They ask you if you've been exposed to somebody that has the disease, and like 5 questions. And then they allow you entry, provided you have a reason to be there. So it's pretty simple.
Joe.
But
I
my
think-
comment about confidence, when Tiffany's saying that she's getting a lot of people calling that are scared and they're concerned, the best way to demonstrate to them that, it's as safe as possible is to have them see that if somebody has this virus, they're not allowed in.
Joe,
That's
two
all I'm saying.
thoughts to your statement. One is that I think either you misheard Tiffany or I misheard Tiffany, because what I heard Tiffany say was that she has her phone ringing off the hook for people looking to buy memberships,
Yes.
not to voice their concern about whether or not they'll be safe.
No, she said
So-
she
so,
had people.
no.
I
No, she disagreed
specifically
with
heard
me.
her say that she had people saying they don't want the pool opened. Did you say
Okay.
that, Tiffany, or not?
I have had a couple people say that they do not want the
Yeah.
pool open, and that was merely to explain to you guys that we need to be on the up and up, which we
But
wouldn't.
that's
do
why
any
I
other
said
way.
what I said to respond
so
to your
second-
comment. And somebody's
secondly-
telling me you didn't say that.
Secondly, Joe, you must understand that the COVID response
Oh, I must
center that you've been,
understand, Brian.
yes, you must understand that the COVID response center that you visited today has very different resources available to it than the Village of Minerva Park. So to
I'm
model
not talking
our
about
activities,
resources. I'm talking about
to
health
model-
and safety.
to model our activity after what you saw today at the COVID response center
Are you a
is
doctor,
probably
Brian?
not going to be possible. No,
Since
however,
I don't understand.
However, I am intimately aware of the resources that the Village of Minerva Park has, and I know that we don't have the resources that you are describing.
Okay,
Gentlemen.
The guy.
hang
that
on,
was
hang on,
put
David,
out-
just for a second. I'm going to continue to mute people for a few seconds so other people can talk for a few seconds. Brian, thank you. Joe, thank you. David has actually raised his hand. I didn't even know that was an option. So I'm going to let David speak for a second. I'm going to leave everybody else muted for a minute, and then I'm going to take everybody off because apparently this ended up being way more touchy than I was expecting. So let me let David talk real quick. David, I did not mute you. Everybody else is for a second.
It's okay. So again, with the concerns about temperature recording, that is, that is best practice as far as we know right now, which I know, changes from time to time. However, to give some examples, yes, the COVID Response Center has vastly different resources than Minerva Park. For example, I work for one of the larger hospitals in downtown Columbus where we've had trouble getting infrared thermometers, those contactless thermometers. We have maybe 2 or 3 per unit to the best of my understanding, but it's no surprise to me at all that our EMS has had a hard time. I mean, for those who think that we just don't want to do temperature scanning, it's fairly likely that we may not be able to get the resources to do so for some time. And that's all I have to say about that. I just want to give some form of context as best I can, that it's pretty tough out there to get these supplies. That's all I've got on that, guys. Thank you.
Well, when you don't do it reasonably, you're liable.
Am I unmuted? Okay.
Tiffany, I see you trying to talk and I notice you're on mute, but I think Diane was about to take over anyway.
I think I'm unmuted. I just wanted to, what you'd asked originally, Tiffany, and obviously this is a very heated discussion. You had just asked us for suggestions. So I would suggest that we just, if anyone else has a suggestion, we take it down and don't comment on it. Just take it down. All right. And that would help.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do it this way. Anybody that has a suggestion, let's not talk about it right now. Send me an email tonight. And I'm serious. Any suggestions are, but understand that we may not be able to do it, but at least I would understand a couple of your guys' concerns because I am concerned about what your guys' concerns are. I think there are some realistic options and I think there are some unrealistic. And yes, I've heard residents give me a couple of both. But I've also gotten a couple really good recommendations from a couple residents that, again, we do have way more, we have way more people excited about it voicing their opinions than not. So again, we have the phone ringing off the hook. We have tons of people that want, David, when we were there was a lady pulling in when we, just while we were there for a few minutes trying to find out when our pool's opening. May 30th is the tentative opening date. And the reason it's tentative is a couple different things. Number one, Patterson was out at the pool. As you can see, it is pouring down rain and it looks like it may pour down rain until Friday, which means the pool's not getting painted this week. If it doesn't get painted this week, it can't get filled this week. long story short, we can't open the pool till there's water in it. And then we also have an issue getting the pump because our pump is actually in a storage facility that the I'm going to call it the electrical people take. I don't even know. Somebody takes it, somebody puts it somewhere, and it's somewhere. They are short staffed now because of COVID, and they can't get out to us to actually put it back. So John was a little persuasive in making sure that that happens in the next week or two. But again, that is another thing that is in limbo. So it's not that we are postponing opening because we want to. We are postponing opening because we have to. Can't open the pool without water. Can't open the pool without the remediations being, the new walls, the walls being fixed. So we are waiting on a couple things. As soon as it's done, we plan on opening. Again, send me emails tonight. I plan on meeting with John tomorrow, Becky tomorrow, Leah tomorrow to go over some additional rules and actually to get some signs ordered. So again, if anybody has anything, feel free to send me an email tonight. And then I will, we'll look at them. I'll talk to John, and go from there. So I think maybe at this point, if anybody has anything specific they want to say, and I know, David, you've got your hand up, so I'm gonna let you say it.
Oh, it's
But
still
I think
up.
we just need to move
Well,
on.
I'll say this, I don't have an axe to grind other than to have a successful pool season and have people come and go and be safe. And the best way to do it is simple. You don't let somebody infected in. And so I'll email you about that. There's ways to accomplish that.
Yeah, I'll just wrap it up, my piece by saying, ideally a temperature sensing protocol it's fantastic. It's ideal. It's the best practice, but as soon as it becomes available for us to obtain, I completely support it. But in the meantime,
Have you raised children, David?
I have not.
Well, I have. I haven't met a parent in my life without a thermometer.
Well, we're not,
You just
I'm
met
not gonna,
one.
I'm not gonna say another word.
No, you just met one. We don't have a thermometer. I don't know how to use, we have it. Every time I take my kid's temperature, it's like 105. So I throw them away and I don't have a thermometer in my house. I promise you. So you have met one.
You're not alone in that, Tiffany.
Good.
I'll give a crash course next time we all get together.
Yeah. Well, no, I want one of those little digital ones that just, I can do it from across the room. So, I guess it's.
Well,
I just want one of those.
the
liquid
reason for the
crystal
no
strips.
contact ones is you can't transmit the virus with them.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the kind that is so backordered. So again, I completely
I
agree.
was a paramedic for too long. I got the thermometers here. They're contact. You put them in your ear. They read 2 seconds, but then they have sterile caps on them. But you can't get the caps.
Okay.
I would like
Go
to
ahead.
real quick just put a button on the question I'd asked you. Thank you. I think one of the things I had forgotten is that memberships are available to anyone, not just Minerva Park residents. I still would like, and I don't know how or where this reassurance would come from. I don't want someone saying I had my $9 and I was ready to go in, and someone who came after me got let in before me. I mean, that's the only worry I have. If we can say you had a chance to buy a thing too, we're not discriminating against anyone.
So-
I just don't want someone slapping some nuisance lawsuit on us because we said, no, that person has priority over you. If we
So
can
I
get-
guess my question
No,
to
the
you, Mark,
lawsuit would be if somebody gets sick. And it wouldn't be
That would
$100
be a different
or
lawsuit.
10,000. It'd be $1
we
million.
can also get one for discrimination.
I'll see
so
if
Mark,
Franklin
let me ask
County
you.
printed all this out.
All right, I'm
Mhm.
about to mute everybody again. Mark, I just have one question for you.
Certainly.
How would you like to see, and I think I just kind of lost you for 2 seconds there. In your perfect world, how would you address 5 people showing up at the same time? We have room for 3. Okay, 6 people showing up at the same time, 3 members, 3 non-members. Who gets in if we have room for 3?
Whoever ran across the parking lot quick enough and got to the line first.
Okay,
well, I'd like to be on membership.
But I mean, I don't know. I can understand member over non-member. I don't care. I don't go to the pool. I just
think
don't
it's a
want us to
legal
get,
question.
I don't want to see a discrimination lawsuit where someone says they didn't let me in, they let that person in ahead of me and why. And if there is a thing where we can say, look, we put a policy, or maybe we need to make a policy, members have priority during this and have it in writing. and we can put that out there so people aren't showing up and being surprised by it. I just, you know, we're a reasonably litigious society, and I don't want us getting bit by something like that.
Maybe.
Does anybody else-
Gene.
Does anybody else have anything to say about that? Because that is something I've really been going back and forth with.
Yeah, I would like to see it done as according to memberships. You know, people with memberships have priority, and I guess the thing is to just ask Gene if that's possible. I don't.
I
think-
did. The initial conversation I had is because we offer memberships to general public, not just residents, that it was fine to do. Like if we decided only members, we could do that for the simple fact that
He's already.
we offer it
he's
to
already
everybody.
Weighed in on that topic.
Right.
And said that we
Okay,
can do it.
that's kind of what I wanted to hear. I mean, I have a wife who's going to get a membership, and she wants to make sure she gets in. Is the only skin I
Right.
have.
So, I
Um,
mean, my goal is to be there the first day. My goal is to do my best in the next 2 weeks, posting different things. And I understand it's not going to be, posting some, we're also going to be working on the posting for the newsletter. But my goal is to kind of just, again, remind people that this is not by choice. We would love for everybody to be in there every day, but to be courteous, preferably not come at noon and stay until 6. Take your turn. I mean, don't be courteous. So simple as that. There's a whole neighborhood. This is a pool. You can't force people to get out. We can't do times. One of the other things that I'm going to ask John for is to increase the, you guys may yell at me for this, I don't know, but one of the things is usually break time is 10 minutes. I wanted to increase break time to 15 minutes. That gives people with infants and older people, I shouldn't say elderly, or maybe
Moms with
health
babies.
concerned people.
Get in there and do things.
What's that?
The Adult Swim people extra time to get in there and do things when the kids are out.
Correct. So I was going to increase that to 15 instead of 10. And that also gives them more time to wipe down stuff. As of right now, we are planning on allowing, we're going to have a few of our lounge chairs out. Every time somebody gets out of a lounge chair, we have to flip it over and somebody has to go clean it. So there are some different things, like JC is not allowing anybody to use their equipment. If you want to bring in a lounge chair, you have to bring in your own. So again, that may be something that's up for debate. Maybe we will decide that we're not going to let anybody use ours. So it's, who knows? As of right now, we plan on letting people use ours, washing them, and, just taking the extra steps and doing it.
But it
So,
might just be easy, because when people use those, they generally put their towel on it, and they
Correct.
use it, and they get in, they get out, I wouldn't see, as serious as this is, oh, they got up to jump in the water, let's quick clean their chair. They're like, hey, my towel's still there, and I'm
No.
coming back to it in 20 minutes.
yeah, if a towel's there, we won't touch it. We're actually going to ask them to flip the chair
Yeah,
over
flip
when
it when they're done.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great idea. Woo.
Yeah, it was John's idea. John has
Yeah.
some really good ideas. So I think with his management, he's been there long enough. I think there's also going to be stipulations that if you can't follow the rules, and I'm not saying that I'm not the one out there, yep, you're out. I mean, we aren't going to get shut down because of 2 bad people. So it's not worth it. They're going to have to follow rules. And I'm going to say this, everybody else keep your opinion to yourself. I'm just kidding. I have high hopes that after a few weeks, things will relax even 10%. So, I mean, just a tiny bit, if we can get to phase 2 or anything like that, that would be ideal. It may not happen, but you never know. We can dream. That's all I got. I'm ready to go home. Wait, I am home.
Thought you were
Sorry.
in Orlando.
Anybody
To
else?
adjourn.
Everybody have a wonderful night. Stay safe.
Night all.
That was an experience.
Done. Bye-bye.